Jude and the Zombies, Part 9. Salvation comes in a black van. The headboard failed to keep out the bright sunlight the next morning. It peeked through the cracks on the sides and right into my eyes. I woke up sweaty. Jude was curled next to me. It was the closest and most unmoving sleep I'd ever seen from him. He was usually all over the place, kicking me and grumbling, but here he was in the same position. I put my hand on his shoulder. "Jude?" I said. He opened his eyes groggily and looked at me. "Ready to get up?" He didn't answer, just rolled over with his eyes still open and stretched. He got out of bed and moved towards the bathroom. I followed and stood to the side of the door, staring at the art on the opposite wall. It was a painting of a fox hunt. There were hounds, the fox of course, and several well-dressed men on horses. One of them had a horn. "Mom?" I heard from the bathroom. "Yeah, kid." I turned and saw Jude had taken the bandage off his wrist. He looked horrified. The whole wound had turned black. Around the crescent-shaped bite, it had the beginnings of gray. He started to cry. "Shh." I went to him and took his wrist in my hand. I poked at the skin. It was stiff, only giving a little. I picked up the bandage that had wrapped it so tightly. There were clots of blood gathered in a crescent shape. "It's okay, Judy. We're going to find someone today and they're going to help us. But I need you to be brave and not think about this. I can't find anyone without you, right, kiddo?" He stood there, sobbing soundlessly for a minute, then nodded. "All right. We're going to clean this and get it wrapped up again, and then we're going to go find those people, okay?" I tried to sound encouraging. Ran his other hand under his nose and nodded again. A string of snot attached to his palm, and he looked down at it. "Gross," he said thickly. I started laughing. After a few seconds, he did too. We lay together on the bathroom floor, laughing hysterically. When it passed, I handed him a tissue, which got us going again. We couldn't move from laughing for at least 10 minutes. The day was cooler than the one before. I wasn't sure where to go, so we decided to walk through town instead of driving for fear of missing something. We walked all morning and found nothing. Our snack supply was dwindling, and I had no clue where the nearest grocery store was. I could only hope we'd find one sooner or later. Jude was quiet, but trying to be normal. I knew he was preoccupied with his wrist. I'd looked at his head that morning, too. It was healing slowly, but didn't look infected. It probably needed stitches, but there was no way I could have provided him with that. Near lunchtime, we stepped off the street into a diner in hopes of finding something there. It smelled rotten and was completely deserted. It was potent enough to put Jude off lunch, so we left with a few bottles of water scavenged from the kitchen. We sat under the covered porch and drank the water. Jude scratched at his wrist. "Does it itch?" I asked. "Nope, I can't feel anything there," Jude said. His voice sounded distant. "Why are you scratching it then?" I asked. "To pretend it's normal," he said. I reached out and pulled him close to me. He rested his head on my shoulder. "Am I going to be one of them?" he asked. I thought about lying to him, but I couldn't do that anymore. "I think so," I said as gently as possible. He nodded and stared straight ahead. "Just kill me, Kay?" he said. I pulled back to look at his face. "Just kill me when I turn into one of them," he said. I felt my face contort at the thought of my Jude turning into one of them. I couldn't kill him. "You'll just run away," I whispered. He shook his head. "Just kill me," he said. I hugged him hard, crushing his face against my chest and planting a kiss on his head, careful to avoid his bandage. "I couldn't, kiddo. I love you," I said. He pulled away abruptly with a sharp cough. "Let's go. I can't sit anymore." He jumped up and started walking. I grabbed our remaining water and walked with him. I tried to joke with him, but got nothing from him for the rest of the day. It was starting to get dark. "Jude, we should start heading back," I said. "No. You said we'd find people today. I think we're getting close." He was expressionless. Jude, what's wrong? You haven't been yourself all day, I said. I don't know. I feel funny. Everything is serious and water tastes gross and food. I just don't care about any of it. I feel weird. He stopped, unable to find the words. Nothing? I asked. Yeah, there's nothing, he said. He stared at me blankly. Let me see your arm, I said. He held it out towards me. The black had spread out past the bandage. I unwrapped it and more dark blood clots fell to the ground. The gray color had spread out more as well. Am I turning now? He asked. He sounded so different, like some kind of zombie. I think so. He nodded. I want to be sad, but I can't remember how. He sounded puzzled. We had to find someone now. He coughed sharply again. You said we were close to finding someone. How do you know? I asked. He at least remembered how to look slightly uncomfortable. His gaze traveled to the ground. I can smell them, he said. Can you smell me? I asked. He nodded. Well, I asked. You smell rotten. He didn't look up at me. Come on. I grabbed his hand. Lead me to them, I said. He walked quickly as the sun fell lower in the sky. By dusk, we were at a gas station. It was closed up, locked, with a few broken windows. There's someone in there, he pointed. I ran toward it, dragging Jude behind me. The black on his wrist was halfway up his hand now and looked like it had stopped spreading for a moment, but the gray was growing faster. I banged on the doors and windows. Hello? Is someone in there? Hello? I shouted. I heard shuffling, but no one showed up at the glass door. Who are you? Asked a voice. I looked above me at a camera and speaker. My son and I emailed someone in the area and they told us to come here, I said quickly. They said nothing else. A moment later, a black van came around the corner. 2 men jumped out of the side door and grabbed Jude and me, holding our arms behind our back. They were dressed head to foot in black. Their arms, hands, feet, and legs were wrapped in what looked like thick fabric. Hey, careful with him, he's injured, I said. They hauled us into the van and strapped us to the wall. A band went across our foreheads, necks, chests, and waists. Our arms were at our sides and our legs stuck straight out. The van door closed and we started moving. Jude had been strapped next to me. I turned my head, scraping my neck on the rough strap holding me in place. More straps dangled around us at odd angles. You okay, kiddo? I asked. He tried to nod, but his head was held in place. I noticed they'd tucked a bit of gauze between his head injury and the strap. Thanks for that, I said to the men. They were stripping off the thick fabric that encircled their extremities. They pulled off their black ski masks and immediately put on surgeon's masks and goggles. Latex gloves went over their hand, followed by another pair of thick-looking gloves. We have to examine you, one of the men said. I'll tell you right now, he's been bit, I said. Upon reflection, this seemed like a stupid thing to share. I didn't even know these men, and I was strapped down. Had they been the radicals, they would have killed Jude on the spot. Where's the wound? The man crouched in front of Jude asked. His right wrist, I said. The man turned to Jude. What's your name? He asked. Jude. How old are you? I'm 10. The men turned to look at me as if for confirmation. Yeah, he's 10 or 11, I said. When were you bitten, Jude? The man asked. 2 days ago. Again, the men looked at me. I shrugged as well as I could, being tied down. That's right, I said. It's a bit late, the man said to the other. He nodded gravely. Has he started coughing yet? The man in front of me asked. No, I said. Well, yeah, a couple times today. So it's a bit slower than usual. The man in front of Jude turned around. There was a large black metal chest I hadn't even noticed. It was blended perfectly with the walls of the van. He opened the top and pulled out a case with a red cross on it. Inside were syringes and vials full of dark gray liquid. He loaded the needle. How much does Jude weigh? He was asking me. I don't know, about 70 pounds, give or take? I looked at Jude, who shrugged, looking indifferent. The man nodded. That's about what I thought, he said. His finger flicked the syringe carefully and pulsed out some of the gray liquid. Pull out his wrist, he said to his companion. He leaned forward with the syringe as Jude's wrist came free. He put his arm to the side so his hand was touching my shoulder and strapped him down tightly right above his wound. Hey, be careful with him! My voice was loud, but also growling in warning. It's okay, Mom. I can't feel it anyway, Jude said. He was sounding more and more distant, his voice getting gravelly. I should warn you both, even though he probably won't remember this conversation, the man with the syringe said. This won't be pleasant. The wound is slowly killing Jude and turning him at the same time. A bite is worse for the individual physically than just dying and coming back turned. It's slowly killing every cell in his body and regenerating it as what we've come to call living dead cells. This is a sort of antidote to that. It's terribly painful to kill the living dead cells, and there's no guarantee we'll be able to save his hand or even his whole forearm. What do you mean? It's only black just past his wound. How can his whole forearm be dead already? I asked. I don't have time to explain. I need to get him the antidote. It's a bit complicated, the man said. Then do it, I said. Jude looked a bit conflicted, but not upset. He kept trying to pull his arm back behind him. The man with the syringe leaned close to Jude's wound. He felt around with his gloved hand, pulling at the skin. The wound opened easily and actually pulled apart a bit more. I looked away as 2 blood clots fell to the floor of the van with a splat. Please, the man whispered, don't be too late. He repositioned himself, pulled the wound open again, and sank the needle so deep into the wound I thought it would go through Jude's thin arm. There was no reaction from Jude until the plunger was fully compressed. His hand flexed and grabbed at the shoulder of my shirt. The man jumped back, quickly capping the used needle. Jude screamed loudly. His face turned bright red, and he tugged at my shirt. I watched him, feeling hot tears drip down my face. I couldn't say anything. I just watched as the black parts on his hands started to fade. It wasn't instantaneous. The newest shade of black on the palm of his hand disappeared, but the deep blacks and grays that had started forming this morning didn't fade right away. Jude passed out from the pain in his arm. When he was quiet, the men started to examine me. It was as thorough as a physical exam could get with the patient strapped down. Jude would wake screaming and pass out again. Is there something we can give him? My heart shattered every time he woke up. There's nothing, I'm sorry. Anything we give him would kill the antidote and the process would start over again and move more quickly. The men had finished their examination and were sitting on the large metal chest. I saw now that it ran the length of the van. Where are we going? I asked. A hospital. We should be there soon, the men said. We've been traveling for, 30 minutes? 15 more and we should be there. Jude awoke again, screaming incoherently, and then passed out again. Why is it so painful for him? It's just his arm. The man who'd stuck the syringe in Jude's arm shook his head. That bite has been sending out living dead cells to different parts of the body since the initial bite. He got down off the chest and pulled up Jude's t-shirt. If you look, you'll find these all over his body. There on Jude's stomach was a smallish black spot. It could have been mistaken for a bruise if you just glanced at it. There were 2 above his left nipple and several on his legs. There was even one behind his right ear. There were a few on his other arm that have gone away, the man said. The other man looked at his arm to confirm this. Good, it's working. Slowly but surely. He paused. When we get to the hospital, we can examine him more closely. He may need another shot. I closed my eyes. Ma'am, are you all right? One of the men asked me. I tried to nod, remembered I was strapped down. I'm thirsty. I've had a headache for days, I said. The men exchanged glances behind their goggles. We're nearly there. Just relax. I blacked out as Jude started screaming again. Everything after that is fuzzy. There was some more screaming and curses. I remember seeing Robert, Jude, and the house again. There were zombies, but we all lived together. There was beeping and pinching, then darkness again.